Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. We are talking sobriety today on Sober Society. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle to triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. If you are new to this podcast, make sure you follow, like, subscribe, and share. Let's jump right in. Hello, and thank you for joining us. This platform is built on storytelling and the understanding that many times our greatest learning experiences come from listening to other people's stories. Today, I am speaking with an amazing woman named Melissa. Melissa is here today to talk about her run-in with drugs and the joy she now lives sober. She is the author of the blog Growing Up Sober and now works at one of the leading treatment centers in Philadelphia. She might need to correct me on that.
No, you're right. And we have a national presence as well.
Awesome. She is dedicated to giving back and uses her story to inspire and encourage other women that no matter how low you go, you can always get back up. Welcome, Melissa.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me, Sabrina. I'm so honored to be here today. I'm sorry in advance if my dog starts to bark in the background. I am doing this from home, and I'm pretty sure she just went a little crazy before. So that is Miss Lola, and she's my little girl, but she's running around the house somewhere. I'm sure she'll poke her head in at some point today.
I love that. We would love to see her. So national presence, where is, first of all, what treatment center, and then
So I am the director of business development for the state of Pennsylvania for Banyan Treatment Center. We have 14 locations nationally in multiple states. We started in Florida quite a few years ago, and we expanded from there. So we're located in Florida, Delaware, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Texas, California, and Illinois.
Wow, you guys are really spread nicely.
Yeah, we have a nice presence across the country. I mean, the more locations we have, the more people we can help. So I'm all for it. 100%. Every time I turn around, we're acquiring another center. So I'm like, okay, this is great.
Yes, I love that. I love that. That's so awesome. Well, listen, I so appreciate you being here. I so appreciate you taking a little bit of time out of your day. Can't even imagine with all of the new stuff you have going on in your life right now. The goodness that has come into your life. I'm so excited to share it with everybody. So thank you again for taking some time. I would love to kind of take a few steps back and give you the floor per se to kind of just talk about what life looked like when you were younger. What did life look like before you actually got into drugs?
Okay, absolutely. So I grew up in Monmouth County, New Jersey, in a really small but large town called Lincroft. I was raised by a single mom. She's absolutely awesome. I'm sure she's watching right now. If she is, hey, Ma. I have a younger brother and a younger sister. I am the oldest of three. And I have a really loving, super supportive family. When I was growing up, it was always family events, family parties. Holidays were always really big, birthdays. We are just a really fun-loving Irish group of people. And I mean, I had a really fantastic upbringing. I went to Catholic school right up the street from my house. I had really great girlfriends. We're still super close. Nice. Yeah. And it was just a pretty run-of-the-mill childhood. My mom is a single mom. My father passed away when I was 5 years old. And she has since been had boyfriends or married again, and always really fantastic guys. Things just you know how it is when you're dating, you have kids, there's a lot that comes into the picture. So things happened, but I always had a really good role model in my mom. I had a really good role model in my grandfather as a really strong father figure. My uncle was always really prevalent in my childhood, super close with him. My family is extremely tight knit. My mom and I talk 3 times a day. I talk to my grandma. Wow. I talk to my grandma almost every day, my uncle almost every day. I mean, it's probably borderline weird how close we all are. And my sister and I are like best friends. My brother and I have a really great relationship. I mean, God has always been really good to me in the family department.
That's awesome.
Obviously the passing of my father was like extremely sad and traumatic. I was really young. I didn't really quite understand what was going on. And as I got older, like the not understanding kind of turned into anger because I didn't know what to do with it. And like I sooner learned in like one of a million rehabs that anger is a secondary emotion. With that being said, I didn't know how to handle my emotions and they all kind of just turned into anger. So I was a little bit of an angry kid, argumentative, feisty, but I was always really involved in like school sports and like I had really good extracurricular activities in my life to kind of have an outlet. But eventually I made a few too many wrong decisions that ended up with me hooked on opiates.
Yeah. So how did how did you wind up colliding into drugs? How did it happen?
It's actually, I always say like when I'm talking in a meeting, like I slipped and fell on a needle when I was 17. I think it's funny. Most people are probably like, she's really sick. But I mean, essentially I went to Catholic school. Like I said, I got into the Catholic high school that all my girlfriends were going to. But when I was in like 6th or 7th grade, I started drinking and I was really young. I got sober really young. I started drinking really young. I obviously don't have a high pain threshold or I would probably still be out there drinking and using, but I just like, I reached my bottom like in a very short, like 8 years and felt like the longest 8 years of my life. But like looking back, it flew by. So with that being said, I kind of got mixed up with like the wrong group of people, not to sound so like cliche. I obviously made my own decisions. I wanted to be bad. I don't know like how else to explain it. Like I wanted to get that negative attention, not because I wasn't getting enough positive, just because the negative seemed more rewarding to me. Like, let's see how upset I can make everybody. Let's see what I can do to the people closest to me, how far I can push everybody and if they'll still love me. So I mean, I started drinking when I was in like 6th, 7th grade. The drinking led to smoking weed. I smoked weed and just smoked weed for a long time. And I thought it like wasn't problematic. Looking back, like I would steal like $20 out of my mom's wallet. And like somebody who's like smoking weed recreationally isn't stealing from their single mom. My mom's a teacher. Like we weren't rolling in money when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And that's not like normal behavior. I would steal 20s. And then from there, I eventually started like writing myself checks. I would steal from stores and I was still like 8th grade, 9th grade, just smoking weed. And then I eventually got sent to a state-run program because I failed a drug test in school. I met a boy. That boy was really hooked on benzodiazepines and everybody called him like a certain name. They called him like Sticks or something. And I was like, well, what does that mean? And I found out really quick, I started doing Xanax. I started doing Klonopin. I started doing any type of benzo I could get my hands on. And it got really ugly really fast.
Dane has a question.
Yes, my family always sat for dinner every night, literally every single night. And like still to this day, it's so funny because like when my fiance, he travels a lot for work and I travel a lot for work. But when he's away, I will like FaceTime my mom just to eat dinner with her and my family. It's like the funniest thing. But yeah, no, we always sat down and had dinner together every night. It's like a really big tradition, I guess, in my family.
That's awesome.
So I started using benzos and the benzos turned into opiates. And from there, I was 17 years old shooting heroin.
Wow.
I dropped out of high school when I was 16. It was like a really big thing. My family was like devastated. I immediately got my GED. I got a 98% on the GED test, which like, I guess like it's kind of like being like the smartest person in the like whatever.
In the world.
Yeah, they sent my mom a letter saying that if I continued with high school, I would have graduated in top 5% of my class.
Wow.
So it was like extremely upsetting for my whole family. My mom immediately was like, if you're not going to go to school, you have to work, and you're going to enroll in college courses after I got my GED. So like I was going to community college when I was like 16 years old. My grandma was dropping me off and like giving me a sandwich and sending me on my way. And because in New Jersey, you don't get your license till you're 17. So it kind of just like spiraled, I stopped going to the community college. I stopped working. I stopped doing all the things I was supposed to do. And I remember like before I dropped out, they tried to send me to an alternative high school where my boyfriend went as well. And like they would pick me up on like the tiny bus in the morning, and I only had to go to school for 4 hours a day, and I would have graduated with a regular high school diploma. I couldn't do it.
Wow.
I couldn't do it. I would show up drunk. I would show up high. I would get high during school hours. And they just like didn't know what to do with me. And it's so funny because like looking back, I clearly had like obviously like strong, like severe depression and anxiety, but I also was like really struggling with a substance use disorder. And they were like, oh, oppositional defiance, this, that. And like the school really tried. Like I came from a really fantastic school district, and they tried so hard to help me, to keep me going, to keep me on the right path. Like the principal of the alternative school, actually, I now go back and speak to the same school about sobriety and like what my life is now. But he was so awesome, Mr. Homiak. I'll never forget him. And he was such a great guy. He always tried to go the extra mile for me and like kind of get me in and out of situations without getting in trouble, just to like keep me going so I could graduate. And I could not do it. From there, they tried home instruction. They sent teachers to my house. Like this school really tried to work with me. And these poor teachers would come to my house, and my mom, who is a teacher, would be like, Melissa, the teacher's here. And I'd be like, yeah, they can go after themselves. Like so hard. I was a little devil child.
Wow.
And like looking back, like everybody around me tried so hard to keep me going and keep me on the right path and like the path to success and keep things moving like business as usual. And I wouldn't do it.
Looking back now, what was like the lowest point where you definitively remember like, wow, that was messed up?
So, like I said, I started like obviously using IV drugs when I was 17, and there was a lot of low points. I mean, things really escalated for me. Like I entered my first treatment center just shy of 18. When I like recently after I turned 18, I was incarcerated. I was incarcerated for 30 days, and from there, so I remember being in jail and like, I'm never going to use again. This is horrible. I don't belong here. Like I grew up in Lincroft. Like you guys don't know who I am. And like, I remember I was still like so argumentative. These poor girls that were also incarcerated with me would be like, who was serving you on the block? And I'd be like, your uncle. Like I was horrible. Horrible. Girls were trying to like fight me. And I had this like really good girl who was also in like the cell with me. And she was like, what you have to do when you get out is go to AA. And I was like, I tried that when I was like 15. My neighbor brought me to a meeting, whatever. I didn't like it. And I'm not going back. She was like, you have to try something because you will pick up again. I was like, no, I'll have 30 days sober when I leave. Like, I'm not going to. So I left. I was released from jail, and like things back then, this was before the Affordable Care Act, I believe. And it was like really hard to get into treatment if you were sober for like a certain period of time. And the judge was like, she either has to do 30 days or be released to a treatment center. And my mom, my poor mom, was like tirelessly trying to get me into a treatment center. And these places were like, your daughter has to use before she goes, because she'll never be able to get in coming out of jail.
Wow.
And I got out of jail that day. I went home to my mom's house, and I remember like I had 30 days sober for the first time since I started drinking or using when I was like in 6th grade. And I got high and I overdosed. I almost died. They found me like on the front yard of a drug dealer's house.
Wow.
My mom, I woke up in the hospital. I had no idea what happened. My mom was there. My aunt was there. A friend of mine was there. Everybody was like, you're going to rehab. And that was like when my real like institution journey started. I was in and out of rehabs for the next 2 years. So I would say for me, the lowest point was probably like the end of my last run. I had acquired 4 months sober at like this really great program in Florida, and I left. I was like, I'm ready to go. And like I moved out and I moved into this halfway house that had like no rules, no nothing. And I started using again. And when I tell you, like it talks about it in the literature of the 12-step program I'm in, like the just complete despair that comes after a relapse. I wanted to die. Like I truly wanted it to all end. I was like 20 years old. I saw absolutely no way out. I had been in treatment more times than years I'd been alive. And I saw like absolutely no way out. And I just continuously was on this mission of like suicide. Like, how much can I use and not wake up in the morning? Wow. And like by the grace of God, like I'm still here. I'm about to celebrate my 27th birthday.
Yeah.
And like God is really good, and God kept me alive because like there was obviously a bigger purpose for me. But in those moments, like it was so dark, I really couldn't see it.
Absolutely. Dana has a question for you.
Were you in think of it? No, I thought that was it for me. I never thought there would be like an out for me. I thought it was just going to be like, this is my life until I face like an untimely death. Like this is it over and over again. And like my mom didn't know what to do with me. My grandparents, my brother, my sister. I remember before I was incarcerated, my mom let me in the house for like a day and to bring me to court. And I had just gotten out of detox again. And she was like, come home, take a shower, get dressed, and look presentable before the judge. And obviously I snuck out of the house and got high. And I walked in, and my brother, who was like, I don't know, I guess if I was 18, he was like 14, 13. He looked me dead in the face and said, this is the last time I want to see you. If you don't pull this together, I want nothing to do with you ever again. And, you know, obviously I was incarcerated that day and I got out and overdosed, like I said, but it really took like quite a turn from there.
That's awesome. I want to ask, as far as you've already kind of touched on this already, but you know, the lowest point, you know, the turning point, is that kind of like, you know, your story that you just told, is that kind of like when you decided enough was enough?
No, there was years after that, after the moment with my brother. So, I mean, right before I got sober, like I said, was when I was on this like horrible suicide mission in South Florida. And I had like burned every bridge. And one day I just like, I picked up the phone and I called my mom and I was like, listen, like if I stay down here another day, I'm gonna die. And like, I now know that was like a moment of clarity and like the gift of desperation. But like for some reason, my mom that day, like she really believed me and she bought me a plane ticket and flew me home.
Wow.
And that's not to say that I would have never gotten sober in Florida, because like half of my friends got sober in Florida. It's just, I was so young and so not ready. And at the time I flew down there, and then by the time like I was ready to really get sober, the only people I knew were like people that still wanted to continue to use. Like I knew I needed to change my environment. And like everybody says like, oh, geographical change doesn't work. Like I don't think I could have gotten sober where I grew up, and I don't think I could have gotten sober in Florida. I think after that point I had like made such wreckage in both of those areas.
Yeah.
It had to be moved to like essentially the middle of nowhere to get sober. And which I kind of was, you know, I got sober. So my mom flew me home and I woke up in New Jersey and I was like, oh my God, what is going on? And my mom woke me up like waving a pork roll, egg, and cheese over my face. And like anybody, if you're from New Jersey, like you'll understand how special that was. So my mom woke me up like waving this pork roll, egg, and cheese over my face. And she's like, we got to figure this out like immediately. Yeah. And I was like, okay. And I ate the pork roll, egg, and cheese. My grandma came over and like my family sat down and talked to me. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go to Dunkin' Donuts. Like I'll come right back. And I didn't come back for 10 days. My mom was calling me every day. She was like, please don't make me regret flying you home. Like, please just come home. Let's get you help. Like every single day, all day. I was like, please, like, leave me alone. And eventually, I crawled back into my mom's house. I was like, I'll go. And yeah, my mom really is awesome. I crawled back into my mom's house. I was like, I'll go. And she left work, came, picked me up, and brought me to detox.
Wow.
On the way to detox, this is just like a very like now funny story. My mom said she's never seen a more disgusting person in her entire life, because she brought me into a 7-Eleven and was like, just grab something, like grab a water bottle, whatever you need. And I was so high. I opened the donut case and I touched every single one. How disgusting. And my mom was like, ew. My mom's like, get in the car, get the hell out of here. We are going. Like, that is it. No more stops. You're on your way. And I walked into the detox center. My vitals were so low because I was like so high. My vitals were so low. They made me go to the hospital. They couldn't even admit me. The next day I went back to the detox center, and that was August 8th, 2015.
Yes.
And I've been sober ever since.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. My birthday's August 7th.
Oh, wow.
This is Lucy. Do you think being locked up helped, or did it make it worse for you?
I don't think it was either. I was just like an 18-year-old kid thrown in jail for like a really minor offense. I think the judge thought it would save me. It was really scary. Yeah, it was incredibly scary. Like, I don't know. I mean, it was just quite an experience for me being incarcerated. I met a lot of people that like, I thought I had it so bad growing up. And like, I met these poor women that were also incarcerated with me. And like, I just heard some of the saddest stories. And like, there was so much untreated mental illness in there. Like, looking back, it was crazy. So I don't know that it helped, like, or made it worse or made it better. Like, I will say the girl that I shared the cell with had like a lifelong impact on me. She told me like the only answer for me is going to be AA.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it's not. Like, you're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, you're older and you're still in here. Like, why hasn't AA worked for you? Like, I just thought I had an answer for everything. And, you know, it turns out like AA was the answer for me. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I hope she's well, you know, like I think about it. Like sometimes she pops in my head and I'm like, you know, I really hope she's well.
Yes. I hope so too.
Mm-hmm.
I hope so too. It'd be nice if one day she realized how much that helped. And that's what this is, and exactly what you're doing right now. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes we just need to hear it from the right person at the right time to kind of make an impact. And although it didn't like happen right then, it stuck with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's cool. What do you think is the biggest myth about drug use?
Oh my gosh. That it can't happen to anybody. You know, like everybody's like, oh, drug addicts, like you live under a bridge and like you have nothing and you grew up like really poor and poverty ridden and you grew up with nothing. You had no parents, like you were just like dropped off by the stork and you become a drug addict. And that's not the case for me. That's not the case for most of my friends that are sober. I mean, there's obviously like some trauma that goes into it, that goes into like eventually picking up drugs as a solution. I mean, I believe that at least, but I think like the biggest myth is that like it can't happen to anyone, when like in reality, like it can happen to anybody, anywhere, at any time. Like all it takes is that little switch in your brain to go off, and next thing you know, you can't stop. And that's why, like I said earlier, like I really feel like I just like tripped and fell on a needle when I was 17 and ended up an IV heroin user, because like I don't know how it happened.
Absolutely. I think that yes is for something else, obviously not for the heroin comment. I do want to ask you, looking forward or looking back, you know, you're talking about, you know, you tripped and fell and it could happen to anybody. I'm assuming that you've done some reflection, over the years. What do you think was the biggest disempowering belief that you had about yourself that you had to change into an empowering belief?
I think like as a child or like when I was using or both.
I'm going to say, while you were using.
Okay. So, I mean, when I was using, I thought this was going to be my life forever. Like, I really believed in my heart of hearts that there was like no way that I could ever get better. And like, there was not sobriety to be found for me. Like, I really thought that. And in early sobriety, I was like, this isn't going to work. Like, this isn't going to last. And I'm just going to end up getting high again. I'm going to disappoint my family again. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And like, I remember my therapist, my first therapist I had in my treatment center was like, oh my God, I love her to death. She was unbelievable. And she would just let me sit on her office floor and cry. Like I would literally sit there in the fetal position with like 45, 50 days sober, rocking back and forth, hysterically crying because I didn't think I could do it. And like sometimes I'll text her and be like, hey, can I come cry on your office floor today? And she's like, it's always there. Because like everybody needs a good cry once in a while. But I mean, she just continued to tell me, and she's like also a woman in long-term sobriety. And like I look up to her and her family and like just the woman she is so much. But she just continued to tell me, just put one foot in front of the other and do what is suggested.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
You will be able to find sobriety. And like, that's literally exactly what I did.
Absolutely.
What I did.
Absolutely. What, speaking of that, what were the 3 main steps you took towards your sobriety?
So, I'm really not into like promoting a 12-step fellowship, especially on like an online platform, just because it is supposed to be like an anonymous program. Like I choose to keep my sobriety like definitely not anonymous, but like the work I've done and like I choose to keep anonymity for other people. But I will say like getting involved in a 12-step fellowship was the first step I took towards my sobriety. And like I thought it was so corny. Like, I mean, I walked into a meeting and I would like sit in the back of the room with my arms crossed, like thinking I was so much better than everybody in there or like so much worse. I was never an equal. I was always like better or worse. There was no like middle ground that I ever stood on. My ego was just so out of control. So the first step I'd say I took was definitely getting involved in a 12-step fellowship. The second step, to be completely honest, was like stabilizing myself on the proper medication that I needed to be on, like not medication assisted treatment. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just always like to make it clear that I am like abstinence-based sober, but I had to get on like serious antidepressants and like really level out my mental health and take care of that before anything else. I did not stay sober until I stayed consistent with a medication regimen. That is my experience. And that's not everybody's experience, obviously, because some people don't have the mental health component. I just was blessed with the best of both worlds. So I had to get on medication and really stick to it and like make a commitment to wake up every morning and take it. And that was really important for me for my sobriety. And I would say the third main step I took was like doing what I did by laying on my therapist's floor and crying. Like I was just so honest. I was so vulnerable. I just knew I had to get better. Like I shared in every group in IOP and PHP and whatever. I shared in every group. I was really honest. I was really open. And I always asked for suggestions. Like, what do I do? I didn't know anything. It literally felt like I was a baby who got like dropped off in like this crazy drug addiction world. And then from there, I was picked up and it was like, okay, you're an adult now, figure it out. And I was like, what? Figure what out? Like, what is a credit score? Like, what is any of this? Like, I have no idea what's going on. And like, how do I open a bank account? Because I wrote so many bad checks that I don't think I'll ever be able to again. And like, I was just told like little things along the way. Like I got my first job was like waitressing at this little Greek restaurant down the street from my treatment center because I had no car and I got a DUI, so I had no license. So I would like walk my happy ass there every day. And I swear to God, I thought the place would burn down if I wasn't there. Like that was the first like really esteemable thing I did for myself, was like getting a job. I felt so important. It's so funny because like, and like I still stop in there sometimes to eat, and they're always like, oh, Melissa, hi. Like they remember me, I remember them. And like those people, like I was crazy with 30 days sober. Like I was out of my mind. And that was when I got the job. I had like 20 something days sober, and my family was like, we're not giving you any more money, Melissa. Like, figure it out. You want to live in a recovery house? Go figure out how to pay your rent. So I was like, holy shit, I have to get a job. So I started waitressing, and like I would walk there and they'd be like, why don't you have a car? And I was like, yeah, I don't know. Long story. And like, I didn't want to be like, yeah, just so you know, like I'm sober, like I'm a big drug addict. So I kept it like quiet at first. And then eventually they would like drink at the end of the shift. And I'd be like, yeah, I can't. And like I eventually told them, and like it turned out like the one guy's brother was an alcoholic who's in sobriety. Like I just received so much love and support from these people that I worked with, and it was all because I was honest.
Yeah.
So that was like really huge. I worked there for like 18 months. Like once I got like my first job in treatment with a year sober, like I didn't want to leave the restaurant because I loved it so much. So I had like 2-3 jobs for like a while because I just didn't want to leave. And I was also like extremely broke, but I had no choice. But yeah, it was a lot, you know, a lot.
Lucy wants to know, what does the statement long-term sobriety mean to you?
To me, it just means a long period of time without a drink or a drug.
Makes sense. Yeah. If they invented a pill and it would cure your addiction, would you take it?
No. I probably would have 6 years ago. And now at this point, I don't. I mean, maybe if it could cure my shopping addiction.
What are some things that you are most proud of now?
I mean, I would say like the first thing I'm most proud of first and foremost is like my sobriety. You know, I hold it really near and dear to my heart. Like I try to live like consistently with like an attitude of gratitude and remember what it was like, just so that like I wake up in the morning and like I try to just put my best foot forward. You know, I don't every day. Like I have like really bad days. I think everybody does. It's just part of like human nature. So I don't want to sit here and be like, oh yeah, I'm sober now and everything is just so great, because it's not. Like life still happens. Yeah. Life shows up. But like I have a set of skills that I can use to deal with these things that life throws my way. So first and foremost is my sobriety. What am I most proud of? The second thing I'm most proud of, I would say, is how strong my relationships with my family and friends are today. So I can really show up as like a daughter and a sister and like a friend. Like I have the best friends in the entire world. Like, and my fiance is absolutely incredible. And like, he is also my best friend. But like when it comes to women in my life, like I have like the best friends. Like my girlfriends are like my sisters. Like it is like the relationships I have today are certainly something I'm proud of and grateful for, because I didn't know what it was like to be a real friend.
Yeah. What can individuals in early sobriety learn from your story?
Oh my God. I would say, you know, please just do the work. Like whatever the work is for you, whatever somebody suggests for you to do, please just do it. Like it seems so trivial at the time, like when you're first getting sober, to like do X, Y, and Z, or like what your therapist in IOP or your individual therapist or whoever is telling you to do. Like just follow somebody that knows what they're talking about. Identify with a sober person and rock out with them, because you're going to need them. Like you're going to need them. Like we can't do this alone. You know, if there's anything that I know like for sure today, is like I can't do anything on my own. I always need the help of somebody else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, I so appreciate you taking some time out of your day to sit down and explain all this. What an amazing story. I love, it sounds horrible, but I love the fact that like the myth of it, drug use looks a certain way and it
Mhm.
doesn't look a certain way.
Yeah.
And that's so important for parents to know.
Oh my God,
Um,
yeah.
and teenagers, because we think that because we come from a certain background that it's never going to be part of our life, but we have to be
Mhm.
extra diligent no matter what our background is to watch ourselves before we wreck
Mhm.
ourselves, you know.
Yeah. I
Definitely.
mean, I deal with families on like a daily basis, and I'm really blessed that like Banyan has like a family. We have like a whole family program for the families of the loved ones that we treat. But I also like usually am the first person to make contact with the family, and they're like, I just can't believe this is happening to me. Like, believe it, because it happens to anybody. It doesn't matter what you did, how you did it, where you live, or any your socioeconomic status. None of that matters. None of that matters, you know.
Yeah.
And that's like one thing I always like to make clear to families. Like, it doesn't matter the upbringing you had. Like, it can happen to anybody at any time.
Definitely, definitely. So we know a little bit about what you do, kind of explained it a little bit in the forefront there, but what do you do to give back? What do you do to, to help your community, to help humankind? Um,
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing I definitely do to give back is like I walk others through the 12-step program that I am a part of. You know, that's like super important to me, near and dear to my heart, is to like always have my hand out for the new guy or girl who's there on their first day, their first meeting, their one day clean, and like me being able to be there and be like, "Hey, how are you? Do you want to go grab coffee this week?" You
yes.
know, like I try to like be as kind as I can in any and all situations. You know, kindness is always, it just gets you so much further. Like love, tolerance, kindness, like gets you so much further. My nanny always told my grandma, she always says to me, you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar.
Yes.
And I always try to like keep that in the back of my mind. Like no matter how somebody's treating me, I always try to reciprocate with like love and kindness. Um, I try to give back by making myself available as much as I can for people that need help seeking treatment. That's like really important to me. Like no matter what I'm doing, I always try to stop myself and pick up the phone. I was actually like hoping my phone didn't ring while we were doing this because I would have had to be like, hold on one second, put it on mute.
To
And so
answer,
far
yeah.
we're good. Yeah, so far we're good. But I always try to make myself available for somebody who's seeking treatment. That's like really, really important to me, is to just like, regardless of their like insurance status, you know, like always have a resource for somebody on the other end of the phone, whether it's like a friend I grew up with calling, asking for help for their cousin, or like somebody that calls me through a referral source. Like regardless of who's calling me, I treat everybody the same, and what, regardless of what their like status is, I always try and help somebody find somewhere to go.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. And it's so imperative to make sure that when you kind of find your way, that you help, other
Mhm.
people. You got to lend a hand and
Always.
help us all climb up that mountain. So I
Mhm.
so appreciate that. And I certainly know that there's going to be people in the future that are going to be telling the same story that you just told, where you're like, this
Mhm.
girl, she, I remember her name. I don't remember her last name. I've moved, 5 times since then. I don't know where she
Mhm.
is, but she helped me. And that's going to
I
be
hope
your,
so.
that's going to be yours. And that's awesome.
I hope so. The other day, a girl that I grew up with who I actually helped get into treatment not too long ago, or I guess it was a while ago now. She just like texted me and was like, I have this long sober and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. And like I was literally almost moved to tears. Not that it takes a lot for me to cry, which I'm pretty sure I've made clear, but like I was so emotional. It made me so happy to get a text like that, just like, hey, thanks for helping me, because sometimes this is like a thankless job. And not that like I need somebody to be like, oh, thank you so much for all the work you do. But like, it really means a lot that like I'm able to be the hand to help somebody, and that like, not that it sticks every time, because it doesn't, like, it just doesn't. But when it does stick and like the person does get sober, like it's just so it full circle for me.
Definitely. That's awesome. I do want to ask, we've been concentrating a lot on your story and teenage years going into adulthood, but we have parents, we have moms and dads who join us on these platforms who have children. And I want to ask you, what is some advice that you would give to parents whose children are in treatment right now?
Oh man. Leave it to the professionals.
Okay.
Like, do not interfere. Do not think you know best. Because my mom didn't know best. Like the first couple times I went to treatment, she's like, all right, come on home. I'll come home and I'd be high in like 5 minutes. She's like, yeah, come on home. And like, no, that's not what worked for me. Like extended care is so important. I was in treatment for 8 months when I got sober.
Wow.
I was in some form of treatment for 8 months when I finally got sober. Extended care is crucial. Try not to enable, educate yourself, and like most importantly, take care of yourself. The last time, my mom's gonna love if I say this, last time I went to treatment, my mom dropped me off, took her and my brother to Mexico for 10 days, took my brother and my sister to Mexico for 10 days and was like, have fun. You have a bed and a roof over your head. You're going to be fed. You're okay. I'm going because I need a break. So like, take care of yourself. It's so important to take care of yourself.
Definitely. We have someone asking, what should parents know to be aware of if your child is using?
Please have Narcan.
Oh, okay.
Like, please have Narcan. Have it handy, have it in your car, have it in your kitchen, have it in your kid's bedroom. If you know your child is actively using, regardless of what the substance is, please go to your local pharmacy and get Narcan.
Wow.
And get yourself trained and get yourself informed on how to use it. There's YouTube videos, there's local classes at churches and hospitals and all over the place. If you need help on how to obtain Narcan, message me, call me, whatever. I will direct you to the best way for you to possibly get it.
That's awesome. And you guys can contact her at her Instagram. And, she'll probably put her information in the comments below. For those of you listening now live, we so appreciate you being here and supporting this channel. I have another one here. What is your favorite part about sobriety?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say my favorite part about sobriety is just constantly growing, like constantly working on myself, doing the things I have to do to be the best me I can be. And like my life constantly evolving. I went from, like I said, I was essentially homeless and like I own a home today. I'm about to get married. That's like absolutely crazy to me. I have a dog that I take really good care of. She's like my little baby. And I'm a family member and a friend today. My favorite part about sobriety is like the consistent change and growth that has happened.
Definitely. I can see that. Dane is asking, he holds a Wednesday Zoom meeting. He's asking, can you join us on Wednesday at 8 p.m.? We would love to have you.
Yeah, send me a private message. I'm happy to do whatever I can.
Awesome. Well, if Dane's still listening, send Melissa a private message on Instagram and she'll get back to you. So listen, girl, I so appreciate you, like I said, taking some time out of your day. For those of you that are listening that would like to connect with Melissa, her Instagram is above her face area. And for those of you watching on the replay, we would so appreciate a hashtag replay as you're listening so that we are made aware that you might be commenting and asking questions to Miss Melissa, and she will be in and around to answer any questions or any comments or statements that you would like to make to her. So I so appreciate everything. Do you have any closing thoughts before I close up?
I always want to make it clear, like my story isn't everybody's story, whatever your bottom is or whatever your bottom may look like and whatever it takes for you to get and stay sober. Like when I first got sober, I was like, oh my God, like I'm abstinence-based and everybody else is on MAT. Like, no, I don't feel that way at all anymore. Like I want everybody just to get another day on this with their feet on the ground.
Yeah.
you know? So whatever it takes for you to get sober, like, please, like, there's hope and there are so many pathways to recovery. And like, my way is not the only way. Like, there are so many different ways that can keep somebody alive and get them another day sober today. And like, whatever it takes, just do it, please.
Yeah. And that's why it is so important. You know, I know you kind of touched a little bit earlier on the, you know, anonymity of the 12 steps and what that looks like, but, you know, kind of stepping out once you're comfortable and once you are clear in your sobriety, and sharing your story every once in a while to, you know, individuals who maybe haven't stepped foot in a 12 step or any sort of community, helps.
It's not as scary as it seems, I swear. And it's not as corny as it seems either. I've been like an active member of a 12-step fellowship for 6.5 years. And like, let me tell you, it is absolutely incredible.
That's awesome.
The
That's
friends
awesome
that
to
I've
hear.
made, the people I've connected with, it's been quite a journey.
That's great. That's great. Well, listen, I so appreciate you taking some time out of your day. This has been absolutely fantastic. I hope to see you in and around our community going forward. For those of you, again, listening live, thank you so much. For those of you listening on the replay, shoot us a hello as you're listening. We'd love to hear from you and connect with you. So thank you so much for joining us here. If you have an amazing story to share of struggle to triumph, be sure to reach out to me here at herversion.life or sobersociety.solutions. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I'm so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others, do something